Hey guys, Ramsey here with the Rajathon YouTube channel, and this is going to be the spoiler-filled review of The Gunslinger, which is book 1 in the Dark Tower by Stephen King. I will go ahead and put a link to the kind of announcement video, kind of goes over what the Dark Tower is and why I want to read it, and then all my book reviews will be in-depth, kind of what I thought, who the characters are, which characters I like, which ones I didn't, all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't watched that video and you're curious about the Dark Tower, honestly, I would say book 2 is fantastic. Book 1 is a little bit of a struggle to get through, but I would say go ahead and give it a shot. From what I've read, I like it so far. I'm really excited to get into book 3. And I find it one of those stories that is going to get more rich and more intense the farther you get into it. And it kind of does feel a little disjointed, because I know book 1 was written years earlier, and then book 2, book 3, and book 4, I believe. And then he took a break, and then he came back and wrote some more. So I don't know, but it's very King, and it's one of those where I'm very excited to learn more about this world, this series, and everything. And if you do leave and you're curious about some other stuff, there'll be some links down below or whatever where we could watch some different videos, because I do a lot of book reviews that are not spoiler filled, if you'd love to check that out. But this is book 1, The Gunslinger, Dark Tower, the shortest of the whole series. And I recently found these illustrated versions, and I am in love with them. They're the perfect size to read. They're paperbacks, but they come with these illustrations. The first one only has 4, I believe, but they're full color illustrations that are just really, really well done. Michael Whalen did them, which I believe is the same guy who does the Stormlight Archive illustrations for that book series. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments below, but I think he's the same guy. And so I already like his art, and he does art for some of the greatest books that I've ever read. Being spoiler filled, I'll show you this one. It's the Slow Mutants pulling Jake down in the Gunslinger. So I mean, it's just really, really cool addition that this book was, and I'm excited for it. The thing about the Dark Tower for me is, the thing about the Gunslinger for me is, I was a little bit bored in the beginning, because you're starting out. You've got Roland, and he's just walking and walking and walking and walking. Then he comes up on a dwelling, kind of like a little, I imagine it like the Tatooine houses without the moisture collector. Kind of just like you go down a little bit, and it's kind of down in the ground a little bit so it stays cool. And there's the crow and the guy and the corn, or the beans. And, he's afraid that he's going to kill him. He was told a story by the man in black. So he isn't sure how things are going to go when Roland gets there. And from that point on, we kind of learn a little bit more about Roland. We learn, we go through, and he keeps on, he leaves that man alone. He keeps going. And I was interested, but I wasn't like there all the way with this yet. And then when we meet Jake, I'm really, really I'm like, okay, Roland's taking care of this kid. This kid was killed in our world, and then he was pulled over into this mid-world, right, is what it's called. So he was pulled into mid-world because the man in black pushed him in front of a car in New York City, in our world. And I found that enthralling. I was like, man, this is going to be cool. This is going to be great. And we get, the very near history of Roland's backstory, where he was in the town. And the big woman, I think she was grotesquely fat, but for some reason she was immensely attractive. And that was really interesting. And then he was with the bartender. He kind of I'm having a hard time remembering names. I read this about 8 months ago. So he's in the town, and he's kind of sort of dating, sleeping with the bartender, owner of the saloon, and he never really feels comfortable there. He never, he goes and he confronts the big woman about what the man in black said, and then the whole town turns on him. He ends up having to shoot the whole town, and you really see his ability with a 6-shooter, how he can hop out. And I remember clearly the talk about how the bullet casings were so hot on his fingertips as he was reloading, and I found that really really interesting. So I was really getting into it. I was, and then we go back to Jake, and they're going into the mine where they're in the mine cart and they're going in the mine, and I can't remember. Does he knows there's going to be a sacrifice? So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, he's going to have to sacrifice Jake, or he's going to have to sacrifice himself. How's this going to go? And then when that moment finally comes, where the slow mutants are pulling Jake down into the crevice, and he jumps over him, I just, I something about it really sat wrong with me. I don't know why, and I just, that is the moment that I think I just really, really, really struggled with the book and made me go, I don't like it. But the more I sit back and I think about it, the more I wonder, did it get the reaction out of me that he was trying to get out of me? Did my experience with the Gunslinger parallel what King wanted to get out of me? Did my experience give me the appropriate reaction? Did he want me to be interested and then immediately turn off of Roland and consider Roland somebody that I just don't really care for, somebody I don't trust, somebody I imagine in a moment will always seek the tower over everything else? And maybe that's me wanting a self-sacrificing character that is not as driven to a goal as Roland is. Maybe I'm having my mind kind of stirred a little bit by this book. So as I think more about it, and through reading book two, you learn a lot more about Roland. You learn about who Roland wants to be, but he's still going to go to the tower, and he's still going to make sacrifices that he feels needs to be made over what people need in their lives, and that's a motivation of a person who's real. And I found it interesting because he has a goal that is more important to him than somebody he meets along his path. And he has a goal that's more important to him than his own personal safety. I like, people are that way. People have those emotions. People have that drive to them. So I actually look back on it and go, man, I was probably way too harsh on this book. So once I get done with the series, I'm going to reread The Gunslinger and see how I feel about it. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments down below. When I was listening to the audiobook of The Gunslinger, Stephen King kind of did like an afterword or a forward, and he talked about like where he got the idea for The Gunslinger. And it made me go watch my favorite Western ever. He talked about how when Clint Eastwood was up on the screen with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, that's who he imagined The Gunslinger as. And the big screen, the dramatic look of the man with no name, who Clint Eastwood was in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And there's a trilogy of movies there, but I look at who the Gunslinger is, and now I also imagine Clint Eastwood in those movies, and I think that man would be willing to do whatever it takes. I find it a wonderful parallel, and I'm really excited to dive more into that. And then some of the choices he made in book two, I'm really, really excited about, so we'll do that review next. So once I get the rest of the videos done, there'll be a whole playlist. So if you're watching this in the near future, I should have the drawing of the Fruit 3 video out very quickly, and then I will read Wastelands as well. And so all you have to do is, I'll link the playlist down in the description, and it should play right on through for you once I get all the videos done. I am super excited to keep going on this journey, and I will give you the Drawing of the 3 review as soon as humanly possible.